looking at these human companies that sell CBD, they didn't bother to look and see how you would dose it. So we know in humans, you go into your doctor and they're like, oh, so you take 1 tablet a day. And it doesn't matter if you're my size or my husband's size, it doesn't matter. You get 1 tablet a day.
Person size, human size.
But they don't recognize, they don't recognize that we treat dogs that are 3 pounds and we treat dogs that are 150 pounds and we can't dose them the same. And I get clients in all the time who bring something in and they're going, I don't know how much of this to give. And I look at the label and try and figure out the concentration. I'm like, I don't know either. I can't tell. It doesn't give me enough information to even tell you how to dose this. Which is really sad.
Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the Pause and Effect podcast. Obviously, I'm a vet. I'm practicing. I own a veterinary practice in South Africa. And one of the things that we always try and do is provide relatable, credible information for pet owners. And I've got the privilege, obviously, of podcasting in the space, which is very, very nice, other than, like I warned you, the background noise. But I have to start by telling you a very short story. Okay, just to set the scene, just to show quite how delighted I am to speak to you. We are undergoing, as I mentioned, a renovation, and there was a period of time where we were not allowed to walk on the new flooring in the prep room where we knock down our patients. And the vet, one of the vets said, I just need to get 1 book from that library shelf. And I want to show you what the book is. I'm sure you can guess.
Okay.
It's your second edition.
Oh,
I know. How cool is that? So she was very excited to hear that I was speaking to you today. It is our Bible, which I'm sure you've heard the term before. We all absolutely sort of resonate to it when we're in need. And so, I'm like, wow, what a privilege to speak to someone.
Well, I need to get you guys the latest edition.
No, I know. You're on edition 6. Is it 6 now?
Well, no. So I'm working on 6 right now.
Okay.
And I'm trying to get it in by March. And then it will probably be a year before it comes out. So the current version is really 5. But I wouldn't buy, my publisher would hate me saying this, but I would say just wait and we'll get you version 6.
Okay. I'll be the first on the list to purchase version 6. It's a brilliant book, and I'm sure it has brought you a huge amount of fame and hopefully some fortune. But I mean, it really has made you so credible in the veterinary space. And I mean, I was hoping today to talk about supplementation and the other work that you're doing, because it is really difficult and it's really hard, even for us as veterinarians, to understand supplements and the role when we are used to prescribing medication and feeling as though our prescribed medication is safer and better in many respects. We're fearful of supplements for multiple reasons, and I hope that we could have a discussion around supplements, because you are clearly you've bought into.
You know what? Let's do that, because so I started my company 4 years ago and selling supplements. And to be honest, I'm not sure I really understood what that meant when I got into it. What I did know is that to take a drug through the FDA and get approval in the US is somewhere between, you'd be really lucky if you could do it for 6 million. It's probably more like 10 to 12 million. And the issue for me with that is it makes our products really expensive, because you have to sell, to make that up, you have to sell a lot. You know, I oftentimes have been talking to people about the issues with drug development in general. And so let me start with that. And then I think it'll make sense why supplements exist and why we need to do something. So if you look at the US, if It's right now to get a human drug through the FDA process and get it registered is somewhere, and the numbers vary because not everybody reports their preclinical work. Some do, some don't. But it's somewhere between $2.5 billion and $4.5 billion to get a drug approved. Now, why is it so expensive? I mean, that's crazy, right? The reason is that we pay for all the failures. So every time Big Pharma takes a drug forward and they pay hundreds of millions to do a clinical trial, and then it fails, somebody's going to pay for that, and that's the consumer, right? So if you look at oncology drugs, 3.4% actually make it through the registration process. 3.4%.
Wow.
So we're paying billions for drugs that don't make it. Why are so many drugs failing in human clinical trials? At least a part of that is that we continue to test in a model that is irrelevant to people, and that's rodents, right? 95% of all preclinical studies are done in rodents in the US. They don't relate. You can cure cancer in a rodent all day long, and it's not going to happen in people. And it's true for many different products. So we have to, I think, as a group of scientists and healthcare workers and people who care, we have to say, let's find a more predictive animal model. And that model is dogs. We know they're out there, right? They get the same disease. We use the same drugs. They respond in the same way. The failures would be reduced significantly if we would just go through dogs before we go to people, because a clinical trial in dogs might cost you $300 to $500,000. It would be $300 to $500 million maybe in a person, people. So we just need to do a better job of our preclinical work before we go into clinical trials. And dogs benefit from that, right? The earlier, it's always bothered me as a veterinarian that if you go back and you look at drug approvals, they've oftentimes done studies in dogs, but we don't hear about it. It doesn't get used in dogs. It's down the road that we start going, oh, maybe that drug would be beneficial in dogs. And then maybe there's some data that would tell us how to dose it. My theory, what I always tell pet owners is, look, if we don't have anything good, but if there's something experimental out there, as long as there's safety data in dogs, let's do it. Let's try it because we have nothing else. So I'm not as concerned that we know about efficacy. We'll learn that in dogs, but we have to have safety because these are people's pets. And I wouldn't allow somebody to test a drug on my dog that didn't have safety data.
Absolutely. But also we're so engaged. Safety. Absolutely. I mean, we're so engaged with our pets that we can see the response to a lot of these drugs, which I mean, there's a limited amount of information that you can get back in terms of if you're testing, for example, something that's meant to be managing pain in rats or mice, to actually have that feedback. People are engaged with their pets, and to have that in the real life setting is a phenomenal opportunity. So I can see, and because their lives are condensed, but they're not as short as rats and mice, and they're certainly not as long as ours. It allows us to see how that plays out and obviously the interactions with time and other drugs and other effects.
Such a great point. I have been asking myself for 40 years, how do you really do prevention in people when you have to wait 50, 60, 70 years? I don't think you do. You do prevention in dogs where you wait 6 to 8 years. Or, you start some... Let's say we're talking longevity or anti-aging. Let's say we started in dogs at 6 years of age. We maybe only have to wait 6 or 8 years for the end of their lifespan to see if it made a difference, not 50 years or 60 years in people. So yeah, I mean, dogs offer us so much, but we just missed out on them. But okay, so that's my soapbox. And I will get off of that now.
No, I love it.
Because I think we were going to talk about CBD.
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk generally about supplementation. And I know that you offer a line of pet care products, which include CBD. And I think I wanted to start with that because here in South Africa, firstly, I suppose I've got to go back a step and say, we started off with people saying, I'm just using what I use and I'm seeing a great result in my pet. And then we had people who said, well, I produce for people, I'm now going to produce for pets. And then we had, what's happened is there's a lot of distrust in and a lot of, I suppose mistrust in the products themselves. And now as vets, to make the recommendation for something that we felt wasn't, say, FDA approved, we've all just gone, oh, we just don't know enough. And so it's easier to say, be making the recommendation for something that we feel more comfortable using because, hey, we're in the early stages. So I think I wanted to have a discussion with you as to sort of why CBD and why we should consider using it and probably consider understanding a little bit more about it and then how to get it right in terms of administration and advising pet owners. Hello, I'm Dr. Kara, a veterinarian and the host of the Pause and Effect podcast. Our show is all about enhancing the lives of pets by providing reliable, science-based advice and engaging in discussions with experts in veterinary medicine, pet nutrition, and animal behavior. As a professional with years of experience in both the UK and South Africa, I run a 24-hour veterinary hospital and an online pet store. I'm also pursuing a master's in animal nutrition and consult for UltraPet, a local veterinary-grade pet food manufacturer. My passion lies in sharing knowledge and helping pet owners make informed decisions about their pet companions. The Pause and Effect podcast is rapidly growing, attracting a dedicated and engaging audience of pet owners who are passionate about their pets' health and well-being. Our listeners trust us for credible, informative content that empowers them to provide the best care for their animals. We are looking for sponsors who share our commitment to pet health and who want to reach a highly engaged and expanding audience. Partnering with us means aligning your brand with trusted and influential content that resonates deeply with pet owners. As a sponsor, you'll benefit from high visibility on a platform that is used for multiple purposes, including educational content, product recommendations, and community building. We offer various sponsorship packages designed to fit your marketing goals and budget, ensuring that your brand gets the reach and the impact it deserves. Join us in making a difference in the lives of pets and their families. Let's work together to bring valuable insights and quality products to our passionate audience. If you're interested in sponsoring the Pause and Effect podcast, please get in touch. I look forward to partnering with you. Before we proceed, let's discuss a vital aspect of feline care, catering to senior cats' needs. Allow me to introduce UltraPet's Optimal Balance Senior Cat Food, meticulously crafted to meet the unique needs of aging feline companions. This specialized formula features a balanced blend of nutrients, including 34% protein, 12% fat, and 4% fiber, ensuring your senior cat receives the optimal nutrition as they age. With a delectable chicken and rice flavor, UltraPet ensures that even the most discerning senior cats will enjoy their meals. Plus, the vacuum-coated kibbles deliver a taste experience that will keep your cat coming back for more. What sets the senior cat food apart is its thoughtful formulation. With added taurine to promote good eyesight and healthy cardiac activity, your aging companion can enjoy their golden years with vitality. Made with fresh meat, this food provides a better source of healthy protein, while essential vitamins and minerals from VitaCat supports overall health, body function, and immune system protection. For ongoing dental health, the inclusion of calcium and phosphorus help protect your senior cat's teeth. Plus, the optimal mix of omega-3 and 6 fatty acids support a shiny coat and a healthy skin. UltraPet's Optimal Balance Senior Cat Food is available in 2 kgs and 4 kg packs, providing the perfect solution for senior cats transitioning into their golden years. Give it a try and ensure your senior companion enjoys a healthier and more active life. Your pet will thank you, and you'll appreciate UltraPet's dedication to feline well-being. Now, let's return to our conversation.
So let's talk about supplements in general then, and then we'll go into CBD. So there really are no supplements in veterinary medicine, right? The Supplement Act that was passed many years ago excluded animal products, right? So there is a supplement category for human products. None exists. So if it's a supplement, it is actually being sold as an unapproved animal drug. So for the FDA, there's either feed or there's a drug, which means you've gone through the FDA. There is really nothing else. Now, the FDA has chosen to turn a blind eye to some of these unapproved animal drugs. And a number of years ago, a group in the US stepped in called the National Animal Supplement Council. And they became the sort of go-between. There were so many products that were being marketed as supplements in animal health. And think about, things like chondroitin, so many things that we've all considered to be safe and we've used forever.
Yeah.
Well, those were in danger when this act came in place. So National Animal Supplement Council, or NASC, came on board, and they act as this go-between, and they at least try and ensure safety of products. They're not commenting on efficacy, but they are commenting on safety. So when you go forward with a product that is an unapproved animal drug, what you can't do is make any kind of claims. So for example, I'm working on a product for itching in dogs, and I do not want to take it through the FDA because we have several very expensive anti-itch drugs out there. And I want something that people who don't have $100 a month to spend on their dog's itching can afford. And if I take it through the FDA, it will not be affordable. So I am really pushing not to do that, but to go forward as a supplement. Having said that, I'm a scientist. I've worked in academics most of my career. I've done a lot of research. And so when we put a product out, we try to at least do a small study to show safety and some efficacy. So we have a product, when I say we, Dr. Fossum's Pet Care has a product for canine cognitive dysfunction that we put a number of different products, ingredients in that had been shown to be good for brain health. But that product, we can't say it's for cognitive dysfunction, or all we can, we're very careful what we say. For CBD, for example, because it's not an FDA-approved drug, we can't say it will enhance mobility. Although, in fact, we know that's what most people use it for. We can't say that. We can say for calming. We can't say it relieves. We can say it may improve discomfort. But we can't say pain. So it's weird things like that we have to be very careful that we don't make a claim because we're not an approved drug. Now, with CBD, there is no approved animal drug for any of the cannabinoids. The only cannabinoids that have been approved through the FDA is CBD, and that is for some very rare juvenile seizure disorders. That's it. You mentioned something that is actually a huge pet peeve of mine, and that is you start looking at these human companies that sell CBD, and I'm sure what went through their head is, hey, we can make some money off pets too. But you know what they didn't do? They didn't bother to look and see how you would dose it. So we know in humans, you go into your doctor and they're like, oh, so you take 1 tablet a day. And it doesn't matter if you're my size or my husband's size. It doesn't matter. You get 1 tablet a day.
Person size, human size.
But they don't recognize, they don't recognize that we treat dogs that are 3 pounds and we treat dogs that are 150 pounds and we can't dose them the same. So they never calculated out how to dose on a milligram per kilogram basis. And I get clients in all the time who like bring something in and they're going, I don't know how much of this to give. And I look at the label and I try and figure out the concentration. I'm like, I don't know either. I can't tell. It doesn't give me enough information to even tell you how to dose this, which is really sad. So the reason that I started my company, to be quite honest, is I had a 14-year-old Labrador that also had chronic kidney disease and he has elbow dysplasia and was very lame in his later years. I've lost him since, but I wanted to try CBD on him. And when I started looking through the literature, what I found is that 70% of the drugs that were out there, they did not meet label claims. Some of them had no CBD in them. It was actually hemp seed oil. So hemp seed oil does not contain cannabinoids. If you're giving it, you're just giving an oil. So 70% didn't meet their label claim. Some of them had a lot more THC than was on their label. And we know that's a problem, right? Dogs are much more sensitive to CBD than people are because they have more receptors for cannabinoids in their brain. So THC is not a good thing. I've chosen to take THC out of our products completely. And the reason for that is I worry that dogs would overdose, get into a jar, eat the whole jar and overdose on THC. They are not going to overdose on CBD. They can't. And I can tell you that from personal experience because I had an entire jar, so like this, an entire jar sitting on my counter. And I have a really weird Labrador, younger one, who's 5, and he managed to get the lid off and he ate the whole jar. And all he did was vomit an hour later, but nothing else. But that's because I didn't have any THC in there. So I'm not, I do believe there are indications for THC in dogs. And if you talk to the veterinary oncologists for things like bone pain, like osteosarcoma, THC can really help. But what I would tell people is, here's the cannabinoid component that I'm going to give you. CBD in my product is CBD, CBG, and CBN. And then if we need to add THC, you can go down to dispensary, you can get that and you can add it yourself. We don't need to put it in our products because most dogs don't need it, but some do. So because I didn't like what I was seeing, I started to start my own company. And quite honestly, I will tell you, it was a mistake. Starting with a product like CBD, it was so hard. Veterinarians couldn't talk about it. Nobody wanted to sell it. It's just very difficult. But what we found is that a fair number of veterinarians, if they were afraid to sell it in their clinic, they were okay with sending people to our website to buy it. So that's sort of how we've managed. But now we're coming out with other products that don't have CBD in them because those we can actually export. So it's been an interesting 4 years and I've learned a lot.
Very interesting journey. But I think, having the credibility behind you allows you to at least inform. I mean, I have to speak from experience. I was very nervous about CBD and I always kind of shied away from making a recommendation for it because there was this sort of stigma attached to even having it on the shelf. I would have clients saying, should you really be stocking that? It was associated with, teenage boys who are up to mischief. So we see where the request for it has been there, and we have to now understand it and be able to guide pet owners in terms of administration of it and the safety. And like you say, for us, it's about making sure that we're making a recommendation on a product that is safe.
So, the teenage boy comment, that's THC. So people are saying that don't understand the difference between the cannabinoids. I don't see any teenage boy wanting to do CBD because it's not going to get them high, right? Everybody needs to understand that THC is a psychotropic component of cannabinoids, and CBD, CBG, all those others will not make you high or will not make a dog high. So there's actually no relationship there. So let's go through safety, and then let's go through what's out there. So
okay.
I've just told you I think it's very safe. I give it to my dogs. I truly don't believe you can overdose it. The most that might happen is if it's in an oil, maybe they'll vomit from the oil. But we have not had a single dog, and we've been selling it for 4 years, have what I would consider to be a true adverse event from our cannabinoid products. It just has not happened. The other thing I think that veterinarians need to understand is while, it's hard to do big studies for products that aren't FDA approved because you can't sell for the same price. You're not going to get your money back. Having said that, there are now a number of studies out there on cannabinoids for dogs. There's some for mobility that have shown great effect. There's a study out there that looked at dogs with what they called maladaptive pain. They had not responded to anything, including nonsteroidals, and they added CBD to the regimen, and dogs got better. Many of them went off all their other medications. Now, again, these are small studies. We need huge studies. The National Animal Supplement Council did a study at looking at safety. They saw no adverse events. Mars did a 6-month study. They saw no issues with safety. So I think we can take safety out. As long as it doesn't have THC, we can take it out. It might be worth talking about the different products that are out there, though, because so when we talk about cannabinoid products, what you will typically see is people will say it's full spectrum, it's broad spectrum, or it's an isolate. So let's talk about what those are and why that matters. So full spectrum means it has all the cannabinoids, and there's over 140 cannabinoids that have been identified to date. It also has triterpenes and the other substances, right? And it has THC. That's a full spectrum product. If you have a broad spectrum product, which is what I have, the THC has been removed, but everything else is still in. And we boost the CBD and CBG and CBN to make sure we have high levels of those three. And the reason we combined them is that there's some evidence in the literature that CBD and CBG act synergistically for neuropathic pain. And that's really what we want to hit in a lot of these dogs. So we combine those, but that's a full spectrum. I mean, that's a broad spectrum product because no THC. And then if you keep extracting, you can actually go down to an isolate where it's only CBG or CBD or CBN, whichever one you want. The CBD isolate is what's been approved. So why don't we just use that in dogs? It's an approved drug. On the human side, we could use it off label. Well, it's one, very expensive. And two, I don't think we know how to dose an isolate in dogs. So here's the really interesting thing pharmacologically about these products is if you look at a full spectrum product, the pharmacokinetics are like a bell-shaped curve, right? there's a certain amount that you give where you get the greatest response. If you give more, you get a lesser response. You fall down that curve, right? If you don't give enough, you're not going to get that peak. So you have to know exactly how to dose to get the maximal effect. And if you give more, you will get a lesser effect, right? That's a full spectrum product. Broad spectrum products, on the other hand, it's more of a typical pharmacokinetic curve where you give a certain amount, more and more and more, you get a greater effect. And then if you give more, it plateaus. So you give more, you don't get a lesser effect. You just don't get a greater effect. You're really just wasting product at that point, but you're not affecting, the efficacy of the product. So and I don't think we know how to dose. We dose at 2 milligrams per kilogram twice a day for osteoarthritis. Although we can't say osteoarthritis, but that's how we dose. And almost every study I've read, that's sort of the dose. Although I do tell people if they need to go up, go up. It's safe. Yeah. You can go to 4. Yeah. And in fact, for seizures, which appears to be highly efficacious for, I would start at 4 milligrams per kilogram twice a day and go up if need be. I wouldn't even start at 2. I don't think it's high enough. So that's, therein lies the issues. There are studies, there are safety studies, there are some efficacy studies. I wouldn't be reluctant. I wouldn't be reluctant as a veterinarian to recommend it. I would be reluctant to sell it if my state board or your board in South Africa said you can't. And that is true in some states in the US, but there are others that is like not an issue. So it really varies here. It's going to change. We were, when we came out, I think we were kind of ahead of our time. It's going to change in the US. And I think in the next couple of years, we will not see any more issues with, at least with the CBD. I don't know about THC, but with the CBD, I think it's going to go away because there's so much evidence out there now for both safety and efficacy and the public's demanding it. The public want CBD products. They don't necessarily want to have their dogs on non-steroidals.
Absolutely. This comes to my question about not using the correct amount, not necessarily on the other side and saying it's really safe, you can't overdose, but owners not actually getting enough into their pet to see the desired effect. And I think that's possibly what because we've been so cautious about its use that a lot of the time we're underdosing these pets. Have you found that that's been a common misconception?
It is absolutely what is happening. I see a number of clients come in again with products and they'll say, I'm giving this amount. And if I can calculate out what they're giving, sometimes they're giving like 0.2 milligrams per kilogram. I mean, it's not going to do anything. It's such a low dose. So yeah, people are not dosing it correctly because the companies, particularly these human companies out there selling it, aren't giving any guidance. They're not giving any recommendation. They don't know. They don't care. Honestly, I don't think they care. The pet market is not a big market for them. They don't care. So my advice would be stick with a product that is made for dogs where people have spent time figuring out how to dose it. Don't use a human product on your dogs. It's not that it'll hurt. And I like our products human grade. I will honestly tell you, I know people who buy our product and take it themselves. We have an equine tincture that's very concentrated and people buy it and take it themselves. I don't have, whatever. If they want to do that, that is fine. But the opposite, the taking a human product and giving it to your dog, I just typically wouldn't advise, again, because Absolutely. We don't know how you're dosing it and we don't know what's in it.
Definitely. So in terms of, I saw on your website, you provide, really great content to allow people to also understand the cost of buying one versus another. I think it's very easy for us when we're working out drug dosages every day to understand a certain number of milligrams per kilo. But for owners, that can be so overwhelming. So to actually say, okay, well, this bottle is more expensive than this bottle, to actually understand the cost benefit of what they're buying in terms of, what that equates to in terms of the dose for their pet. I think that is really a really great source for people to go to understand what they should actually be dosing.
You just touched on something that's been a real issue for us because we chose to make our products highly concentrated. And you're right, the price point is more because we pay more for the ingredients. But if you look at it on a milligram per kilogram basis, we're actually cheaper than just about any other product out there. But you're right, people, they don't deal with milligrams per kilograms, and they don't figure that out. So that's where the veterinarians need to step in and go, okay, so this is how much you're going to give because your dog weighs 5 kilograms. So we're going to give 10 milligrams twice a day. And this bottle will last you for 30 days if you dose at this price. And this one is going to last you for 15 days. And you're paying 2/3 as much. It doesn't make sense. So those kind of calculations, I think we have to help because we deal with them every day. Most people don't deal with them ever. So you're right. They're just going to go buy the cheapest one that they can find. And, you kind of get what you pay for.
So my question is around administration of these products for anxiety in our pets, particularly if you don't have an anxious pet that you're trying to manage long term. Perhaps it's for a particular event, storm season's arriving, or it's fireworks, or you've got builders on site and your dogs are stressed out. How do you manage in terms of how long, typically how long before, and sort of what duration do you use these supplements for?
Such a great question. So I do think that anxiety is something that CBD really can help with. So I think it depends. If you have a dog that is generally anxious, and let's say you've been somebody who's been at home during the pandemic and now you're going back to work and your dog is totally freaked out because you used to be home all the time and now you're not, that dog, I would put on a low dose. And when I say low dose, you're going to have to play around with it. I might start with 1 milligram per kilogram twice a day and either lower it or increase it depending how the dog responds. But I would keep him on it long term. Now, if you have a dog that's generally not anxious, but doesn't like fireworks, doesn't like thunderstorms, I have people, in fact, I have a very close friend who she just gives it to her dog like 5 minutes before the episode and she says it works. That's not how you should give it. Start it a couple days before. Let's get blood levels going. And then, you can discontinue it after the episode, but don't give it the day of or, immediately before, because I don't think it works that fast, even though some people tell me it does.
Maybe they calm down.
Yeah.
They're placebo. So, they feel better about it.
Exactly.
So their dogs don't sense their anxiety.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And with regards to, so we have some clients asking, my dog's coming into the practice for some tests. Can I administer it? Are there any drug interactions that we should notify owners about? Any anesthetic risk or increased anesthetic risk if they're coming in for a procedure? Are there any times we should be urging owners to discontinue it if they're at higher risk?
Ooh. Wow, you just asked probably the best and toughest question about CBD ever, because we just don't have enough information to really know how it interacts. So we do know it's metabolized in the liver, and that we do worry about. What we have seen is an increase in alkaline phosphatase in dogs that have been on CBD long term. Most people believe that's because of the metabolism that's occurring is not associated with hepatic damage. I don't know. I've actually thought CBD might be really good for minor postoperative pain if you started them before surgery. But I will honestly tell you, I am not aware, and it could be out there and I could have missed it, but I'm not aware of any studies looking at dogs that are on CBD and that undergo surgery to see if there are any interactions. My guess is there are plenty of dogs that have had surgery that are on CBD because people aren't telling their veterinarians. But I don't know. And there's just not enough information out there for me to make, I think, a really strong stance one way or the other. So let me do it this way. My dog's on CBD. If he had to go in for surgery, would I take him off? Nah, I wouldn't bother. But, I'm also a veterinarian. I can watch my dog pretty closely. So I don't know what to say. That was an absolutely fabulous question. And I will dig around and see if I can find more information, but I don't think it's out there.
Okay. While I have the opportunity, because I know that you also are an absolute expert on canine dementia, and it's one of the supplements that you offer in your range. Can you give owners insight into, perhaps I want to start with, firstly, what is it and how do pet owners notice? Because obviously it's easy to determine whether your pet's in pain. Maybe not for cats, but it's easy enough to pick up on signs like pain and discomfort and anxiety. Owners often don't see a progressive or slow decline in their pets. What are the typical signs that could indicate that they would benefit from supplementation for canine dementia?
Again, awesome question. So most people think that their dogs are just aging. They think it's normal aging when their dog starts doing unusual things. And those unusual things are that they may stand in the corner and be lost, like they don't know how to get out of the corner. They don't know how to find the door or the dog door. So they end up having, accidents in the house. The worst thing that happens as dogs get older that many people complain about is that their sleep-wake cycle reverses, right? And they start becoming active at night, vocalizing at night, and sleeping during the day, and they're not as interactive with their owners. So that not being interactive with their owners is problematic, but when your dogs are waking you up at night, it's really an issue for most people. That's not normal aging. That's dementia. And so what people need to understand is that dogs get dementia and it's Alzheimer's. It's exactly like, there's a little difference pathologically, but it is very similar to Alzheimer's in people. The only difference, and this is like really positive for dogs, is that dogs respond to therapy better than people respond. So if you have a dog, an older dog starting to do those things, give a product such as ours or some of the others on the market a try, because the first thing people tell us, and we have people calling us crying because they've had their first good night's sleep in months when they started their dog on these products. They really do help. Not every dog, but they help most dogs. So give it a try. What we did on our website is we put a survey so people can actually go in and score their dog before they start, and then they can score their dog 30 or 60 days later and see if there's any benefit. We did a small study on our product. So a friend of mine, Dr. Curtis Dewey, who is a boarded surgeon and neurologist, deals with a lot of cognitive disorder in dogs. And so what I did is I called him, and actually my own dog was showing this. So, we all, I'm driven to make products when I see issues, and sometimes they're my own dog. So I called him, I said, Curtis, what would you put into a product to help dogs with dementia if you could do anything you want. He goes, well, I would give like these 9 different ingredients, but no owner can buy, 9, some of them from China, some of them are US, nobody can do that. I said, well, we can do that. I can get all those products. I can put them into, a form that can be administered to dogs. Let's do it. So we did it. And then he did a study, small study, because we have a small amount of money, but he did a small study where he looked at 30 dogs and, 10 dogs. And within 30 days, there was a 38% improvement in cognitive scores. And that was enough to take a lot of those dogs that were vocalizing at night and being active at night, making them sleep through the night. So people were thrilled. So that is on there. And, I think it does help a lot of dogs. We actually developed that product. I was looking for a preventative. I was actually not thinking that there was anything that we were going to give these dogs that would reverse their signs. And in fact, we reverse their signs, and more people use it to treat. I don't know if anybody's using it to prevent, but that was really the intent, is like start your dogs when they're 6 or 8 years of age and give it, for the rest of their life and maybe prevent this. But if it's treating it, that's awesome.
And can you prevent it? I mean, one of the statements you make, and I won't get it perfectly correct, is that you can use your products as a first line of defense, but also as the last resort. Try them, because it's amazing what people tolerate, particularly when they're so invested in their pets. I think back to my own home life and what my mum would tolerate from. I mean, we would go like, she's crazy. This dog needs to be put to sleep. It's urinating in the house, and she's not sleeping. Like you said, it's amazing the lack of sleep, how that can impact a family. And when that is managed correctly, whether it's managing the renal failure or managing the dementia or whatever the underlying cause is, that it is. I'm not surprised people phone you crying, saying thank you, because it's life-changing. So Is this something that people can proactively put their pets on if they go, okay, look, they're considered senior based on maybe their breed. I'm going to be proactive about this. Is there any harm in starting these supplements?
So there's absolutely, to my knowledge, no data on prevention. Nonetheless, when I have 2 Labradors now. I told you I lost my old one that I started these products for. But I have 2 now. I have a 5-year-old and a almost 1-year-old. My 5-year-old lab, when he turns 8, he will be on our Cognicaps to try and prevent dementia. But again, there's no studies. So I'm that person. I hate to make statements that aren't backed by science. And there are no studies to my knowledge about prevention in dogs with any of these products. So that's something we need to do. But again, that's a big study, and that's years of data that will show that. But again, would I do it? And the product's safe. Would I give it to my dog when he gets 6 or 8 years of age and give it for the rest of his life? You betcha. I would, in the hopes that it would prevent it. But we'll see.
I would love to. I know that I've taken up a lot of your time today, but I would love to just talk about one of your other products that I find really fascinating. And that's the one that contains is it Oleander? Am I pronouncing that correctly? For inflammation, for your itchy skin. It seems like I know from what I know, I did a chemistry degree. It was always a product that we were very fearful of because of its toxicity. Talk to us about it. Explain a little bit more about it and the benefits you're seeing.
Yeah. So let me tell you the story there, because there is a story. A good friend of mine is somebody I greatly respect, called me one day and said, Terry, I want you to look at a company. They've been trying to market a product for humans, and they have marketed some for like 23 years, but now they want to get into animal health and they need your help. Would you take a look at it? They have Oleander. And I was like, Oleander's toxic. No, I honestly not interested. But because of my respect for this individual, I took a look. I started looking through the literature because they had published a ton. This other company, I mean, a lot. And as I started reading, I became fascinated by Oleander. Oleander is toxic at one dose, and like many other compounds, if you microdose it, it has some really interesting properties, and it's safe. I take it myself, and I give it to my dogs. If that tells you, and I would not do that if I had any concerns. But again, we microdose. So here's some really interesting things about Oleander. It turned out that when I started looking at the literature, it looked to me like Oleander did everything that Apoquel does, which is, for Zoetis, like a $800 million plus a year drug. So we ran a test in vitro and compared Oleander extract. We compared oleandrin, which is the active, so an isolate, and then we compared it head-to-head with oclacitinib or Apoquel. And what we found is that we inhibit all the same cytokines, but to a greater extent than Apoquel did. But what we don't do is we don't suppress the immune system. We actually support the immune system, highly support the immune system. So there's a big difference. We currently have a study going on for itch in dogs, and we'll see how that comes out. I don't know yet. It's a blinded, placebo-controlled study, so I don't know. We do see some dogs getting markedly better, but we haven't analyzed the study yet. But here's some really interesting things. I'm so fascinated by this drug because as about a year into my knowing about it, there was a study that came out of the University of Edinburgh. And what it said is that they were looking for senolytics. And do you know what? Do senolytics cross your, are you aware of those?
No.
So they're sort of the hot new thing for anti-aging. So here's the
now
thought.
I'm interested. Do you see me sit up?
Yeah. So here's the thought. So we know that there are a population of cells in our body. Cells are supposed to divide a certain number of times, and then they're supposed to die, right? Programmed cell death. And I don't know how many times that is, but let's say they're supposed to divide 150 times, and then they're supposed to die. Well, we have a certain population of cells that go, not happening. I'm not going to die. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop dividing, but I'm going to secrete really inflammatory substances. And those senescent cells, many people now believe that's why we age, is those inflammatory substances being, and by the way, they're not dividing. So you're not going to kill them with your typical chemotherapeutic, right? So the hunt is on for senolytics, drugs that will kill those senescent cells and maybe prevent aging, maybe prevent cancer. So here's where I get really excited about it. So anti-aging, I think it's great. I actually have a company in Japan looking at it for a cosmetic for humans, because about maybe up to 40% of our skin cells are senescent cells. So maybe if we get rid of those, we'd look younger. That's not my main drive. What I have found recently in the literature is that there are people saying that those senescent cells, so when you give chemotherapeutics, you also drive some cells to senescence. Not going to get killed by your chemotherapeutic. And I think what could be happening is those senescent cells are sitting there, not being killed by your chemotherapeutic. So you give that for 3 months, whatever your protocol is, and then you stop. And those senescent cells reanimate and home to the lung. So you take osteosarc, amputate the leg, primary's gone, put them on chemotherapy. 6 months later, they have Mets or a year, and they're dead. I think those are the senescent cells that are circulating. And I think if we killed them, we wouldn't see the Mets. Theory only at this point. But I would love to do a study in dogs with osteosarcoma and see if we could prevent those Mets. And it's funny, let me see. Very interesting paper that just came out. And the title of it is Targeting Stress Induction of GRP78 by Cardiac Glycoside Oleander Dually Suppresses Cancer and COVID-19. We knew it's effective against COVID-19. Those studies were done, but the government didn't want to pay attention to them because they were doing vaccines. I'm not a conspiracy person, but I do think that was probably the reason. And then this other paper came out, let me see, right there. And the title of it, Exploring Senescence for the Treatment of Cancer. We have plenty of evidence that we could give Oleander along with standard of care, and I think we could change the face of cancer.
That is incredible. And we can do it in a time frame where, to do it. Yes, but you can see the studies in your dogs, and then this can be revolutionary for us as people.
Absolutely. Again, that's exactly what I keep telling people is let's do this study in dogs. I could do this study in dogs, like a good study, for $300,000, which would cost you multi-millions in people, but it will be directly relatable to people. Very hard to get that message across to non-veterinarians. So if I had a nickel for every, I'll tell you, I have two sons that are both physicians. So this is not them because they hear veterinary medicine all the time. But if I had a nickel for all the other physicians I have talked to that go, dogs get cancer? Dogs get heart disease? What? I'm like, seriously?
Wow.
Like, really? They just don't get it. And so that's why they don't understand what a good model dogs would be, because they don't even know they get disease. So yeah, it's interesting, but that's
amazing.
That's what I would love to do. I have to raise some money to do that, obviously, and that is not easy in this environment. But that is the win. So Oleander, I think it's going to be a good anti-itch product. I am not going to take it through the FDA because I want a $40 to $50 a month product, not $100 a month product. I want those dogs that people don't have a ton of money, but their dogs are suffering. I want to help them. Cancer, that has to go through the FDA, no doubt. So it's going to cost some money to do that. So that's down the road. Maybe we'll make some money on the anti-itch eventually that we can pay for the cancer studies. I don't know.
That'd be great.
Yeah, but it's so much fun. I mean, I love the science. I love the challenge of trying to figure these things out. What I actually don't love is that everybody I talk to, the minute you say Oleander, they're like, oh, it's toxic. Well, look at every other chemotherapeutic we have. They're all toxic. I mean, almost all are toxic at one dose and medicine at another. This is no different.
So is alcohol. Alcohol's also toxic.
So
drink enough, it'll kill you.
So is aspirin. I mean, is there anything, if you take it too much of it, it won't hurt you? Not much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The work you are doing is, it's mind-blowing. It is revolutionary. And I wish you all the best. I can't wait to continue to follow your journey. And I'm so grateful and appreciative of your time and insight into things that we've struggled to get across to vets and to pet owners to really sort of trust in supplementation, but also to be curious and ask the right questions when it comes to administration of these products. So I'm delighted. Thank you. And thank you for all the resources that you got at hand for assisting us.
You're very welcome. And let me just finish by saying that we do have a webinar for veterinarians on our website on CBD. We also have one for pet owners. And I am happy to get on calls and answer questions. So if you have a group of veterinarians that have questions that want to ask, we'll set up a call. Not a problem. Be more than happy to do that. This is really about getting information out to try and help dogs. So.
Absolutely. And you certainly have helped yours, which is why you're invested in sharing that information. So, like I think most vets say, we're not in it for the money. We really are invested in making a difference, and very grateful for all the work you're doing. And you are able to now access multiple pet owners and millions of animals. So, congratulations and thank you again.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's been such a pleasure, such an honor. Absolutely delighted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fossum. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode on the Pause and Effect podcast. If you found the discussion helpful, please like, share, and follow our podcast. Don't forget to leave us a comment or review. We love hearing from our listeners. Remember, you can listen to us on your preferred podcast platform. Welcome back to Just for Pets. You're with Dr. Cara.
Hello, Doctor. It's Chanel the Persian. And, I can't seem to stop retching to get this hairball up.
Are you on a special diet?
Excuse me?
Hairball control food will really help. And maybe some Laxapet. And lucky for you, Just for Pets have a big range.
Well, how early can I get some?
Order today and we'll deliver pronto.
Wow, I feel better already.
Justforpets.co.za. Vet approved, pet adored. Get it all to your door.